Love recognizes no barriers. It jumps hurdles, leaps fences, penetrates walls to arrive at its destination full of hope.
Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that.
Have enough courage to trust love one more time, and always one more time.
Cameron, I just want to share my heart with you today. Is it okay with you that I honor the Cameron way by just being authentic and sharing my vulnerability? This past week has been a difficult week for me. Most of the week, I was angry, frustrated, and annoyed, primarily with my non-Black/brown, non-LGBTQIA, and non-women friends and colleagues whom I've encountered throughout my life's journey. I was reminded of the words of James Baldwin, who said, to be Black in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in a rage almost all the time. I was angry for every time that I have ever been invisible or disenfranchised and then gaslighted into questioning the truth of my experience. I was angry for every time I've ever felt that I didn't belong or that I didn't deserve my accomplishments or the blessings that come with my accomplishments. I was angry that no matter how great the accomplishments thus far, I will never be able to climb that invisible wall designed to keep some people in jobs, or better said, in a state of JOB, just over broke. I was angry for every time that I have been corrected by someone passive aggressively repeating what I said with different words to let me know that I, in their opinion, said something the wrong way. I was angry for every time that someone said to me, "Excuse me, I don't mean to offend you, but," or "I don't mean to interrupt you, but," and then after that "but," they proceed to do exactly what they said they did not intend to do. I was angry for every time I tried to share with the powers that be what ministry is really like for pastors in cross-cultural appointments, and they did not believe me or any of the other pastors. I was angry that it took the death of George Floyd for people to finally table with elites, shared my thoughts and ideas, and no one heard me. Then someone from one of the dominant cultures would say exactly what I had said, and suddenly it was the best thought or idea ever. I was angry about all of the times someone felt the need to translate or explain what I was saying, though all of us in the room were speaking English. I was angry for all of the times that the marginalized are tasked with the burden of taking the high road. being gentle with and providing comfort to the perpetrators of our harm. I was angry for every time I've heard persons from dominant cultures say, wow, I or we've never experienced or lived through a pandemic or times like this before. When Black, brown, LGBTQIA persons, folks living with mental and emotional illness, poor people, and other targeted groups have spent their entire lives living in underground pandemics. Do you remember Stonewall? Do you remember Matthew Shepard? Do you remember the multitudes of transgendered persons, Native American and Black women who have just simply disappeared? Many who go unfound for years or even forever. Do you remember the surfacing of HIV/AIDS in the 80s? Do you remember Jim Crow, a time of lynching either by hanging or fire? Do you remember Emmett Till and what happened to him and what his mother and so many mothers before and after that time have had to bear? Did you know that at one time people gathered with food and beverage to watch joyfully the hanging and fire of persons back in the Jim Crow days? This is why people of color have difficulty with the word picnic. The word picnic in and of itself is innocent. It comes from a word in French. However, people in history have used picnic as a form of fun and activity to enjoy watching the harm done to others. Do you remember my siblings, the Holocaust, the Tuskegee experiment, Red Summer of 1919, Black Wall Street? Do you remember the time when persons who were mentally and emotionally ill were hidden or thrown away in institutions that simply killed them slowly every day? My siblings, we, all of us who are 100 years of age or less have lived through many pandemics that were either happening overtly or covertly underground, but it was happening. We just accepted it as normal because it was the only normal that we knew, or we chose to close a blind eye and zip our lips, pretending nothing is happening because it didn't fit the picture that we had been given of our sacred country known as America. So we refused to name it what it was. It was hatred. It was insidious, deeply entrenched hatred of ourselves and of each other. And the truth of the matter is, I, as a faith leader, as a pastor, has to admit that much of the Bible, the sacred text, was written in words that reinforce every one of these ills. This is why I cannot and probably will never again call myself Christian. For me, Christian is a term that represents a religious institution that is far from who the historical Jesus was. I will not and I cannot use or call myself words such as disciple, missionary, or servant. Because of the heritage of my people, I cannot say that I serve any faith community, though I humbly come and share my gifts and abilities with all whom are in the ministry settings that I am sent. I can say that I am Christ-centered. I can say that I am a follower of the ways of Jesus, as Dr. Lee would put it. I can say that I am a faith leader or a faith-filled leader. And then all of that anger that I was feeling this week was compounded with the events of this week, such as the fires that Reverend Jeremy alluded to earlier. The pictures of all of that orange was just disheartening this week. The anniversary of 9/11 is just always sorrow-filled. Needless to say, my siblings, I was experiencing a divine disruption this week, a stirring of all that was and is. I was experiencing a calling to review my playbook, a calling to rethink my life's approach. It was a calling to take inventory of all of the harm still weighing heavy on my heart and to purge. So facing my feelings head on drew me to review the Maya Angelou's book, Wouldn't Take Nothing for My Journey Now. I was searching for and needed to be reminded of how to maintain my joy and passion for life. I was searching for how to maintain my deep and innate capacity to maintain love and hope for life, as my ancestors did, as I once did, and know that I can and am called to do. The book, Wouldn't Take Nothing for My Journey Now, is a collection of 24 meditations, many of which are of special interest to women. These meditations express Maya Angelou's views on subjects ranging from fashion and entertainment to sensuality and pregnancy to racism and death. Critics say that the best pieces in this book are those that begin with some autobiographical incident from which Angelou draws an insight or lesson, such as Power of the Word, focusing on the power of faith, particularly as illustrated in Angelou's lived experience and her grandmother's experience in the Great Depression in Stamps, Arkansas. Such as get-ups, demonstrating not only Angelou's love of richly colorful clothing, but also a painful event from her years as a single mother of a small boy. Angelou uses each incident to offer her wisdom or moral advice with a light hand, often with humor despite the seriousness of some of her subject matters. Her recurrent themes include self-knowledge and the necessity of honesty, prudence, and respect in the treatment of oneself and others. Most importantly, for my purposes of sharing my heart with you today, Maya Angelou uses these 24 meditations to share her overarching revelation that despite all that she had ever been through in her life, which included being raped, included getting pregnant as a teenager, included being mute for a while, losing her ability or giving up her ability to speak. In spite of all of that, Maya Angelou declared in these meditations that she wouldn't take nothing for her journey now. My siblings, our most basic calling as human beings is to love. Because as Martin Luther King Jr. says, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. We are called to grow in love, capital L, love, not to accumulate knowledge, wealth, and possessions, though these things may result from our love and passion for life and all that lies within. Yet, we spend hours, years, and countless monies learning more and more knowledge and hoping for more and more wealth and possessions, and we spend nothing or little learning or teaching how to love and be loved in life-giving and affirming ways. We spend nothing or little learning or teaching how to be in healthy relationships that honor and respect the authenticity of all. We spend nothing or little learning or teaching how to be resilient while expanding the core of the most beautiful parts of who we are, rather than diminishing or losing sight of those parts, only to replace them with the worst parts of who we are, such as fearful, selfish, self-centered, egotistical, judgmental, hatefulness, and mean-spirited. We are called to love with a capital L, to love unconditionally, to love generously and continuously. Because as Maya said it, love recognizes no barriers. It jumps hurdles, leaps fences, penetrates walls to arrive at its destination full of hope. This is our call. But admittedly, the throes of life often makes it so damn hard to fulfill this call. Cameron, I ask you today, what are some of the things that have hurt or traumatized you? I mean, knocked the wind out of you in ways that caused you to experience anger, frustration, annoyance, and despair. If you're willing, share those things in our chat box. What are the things that have stolen your emotional innocence or your capacity to believe, to have faith, to dream, to imagine, to laugh, to sing, to dance, to take risk, or to be 100% comfortable in your unique skin? Again, if you will, share your thoughts in the chat box. For many of us, in the words of Langston Hughes, life ain't been no crystal stair. So what do? How can we save ourselves? How do we increase our capacity to end each day with reconciled regret and resolved anger, to end each day with a growing capacity to live fully with passion and love, to end each day with the affirmation of, I wouldn't take nothing for my journey now. This week, in the midst of my divine disruption, in the midst of my purging, I came across a meditation by Iyanla Vanzant. This meditation suggested that we must choose to be proactive rather than passive in our lives. It said that choice is a powerful tool of reality creation. It said that it is our inherent ability and capacity to create our own realities. We must take our broken eggs and make omelets. We must take our lemons and make lemonade. It reminded me that my life today is a culmination of what I have chosen, how I have chosen, if I have chosen or not. Van Zandt said that it is unfortunately common to confuse the power of choice with making a decision. Decisions, she said, require that we choose what is best from the available options presented to us, thereby standing in a passive position. And choice, on the other hand, allows us to create from unlimited possibilities that exist in realms that we can and cannot see. In other words, decisions are usually made from what is presented to us, but choice is born from the creative energy within us. My siblings, each and every day, we must seek to be clear about what we desire and choose that rather than accepting whatever is imposed upon us. This does not mean that what happened to us did not happen. It does not mean that we have not been harmed or traumatized by the hard punches of life and the evils of misguided imperfections of individuals in our society. It just simply means that we must exhaust every tool available to us to remain healthy enough not to allow it to defeat us or steal our capacities to live fully or settle for a passive or reactionary existence. I am reminded of and now have greater understanding of an old African American song that empowered my ancestors to keep going. A song which said, "This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me, and the world cannot take it away." Therefore, my siblings, the divine source of life that many of us have come to know as God or Christ or other names that is more comfortable to us, let us wake up in the mornings and go to sleep at night, committed to the advice shared to the world by Kent M. Keith, a contemporary version of the 10 Commandments, known as the paradoxical commandments, that says people are illogical, unreasonable, and self-centered. Love them anyway. If you do good, people will accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Do good anyway. If you are successful, you will win false friends and true enemies, but succeed anyway. The good you do will be forgotten tomorrow, yet do good anyway. Honesty and frankness make you vulnerable, but be honest and frank anyway. The biggest men and women with the biggest ideas can be shot down by the smallest men and women with the smallest minds, but think big anyway. People favor underdogs, but follow only top dogs. Fight for a few underdogs anyway. When you spend years building, what you spend years building may be destroyed overnight, yet build anyway. People really need help, but may attack you if you do help them. Help people anyway. Give the world the best that you have, and you'll get kicked in the teeth over and over again, yet give the world the best that you have anyway. And though justice and equality seems impossible to achieve, stand up, speak out, and fight for the rights of everyone anyway. And then when we close each and every God-given day, gifted to us, we can close with the resolve that we wouldn't take nothing for my journey now. Thank you, my Cameron siblings, for allowing me to share my heart with you today.